Thanksgiving is 1 week away. We're already in the holidays. And so I thought this could be a good time to talk about how to love our way through the holidays. Because for some of us, the holidays can be very stressful. I looked at one survey that said 90% of the people responding said that the holidays were the most stressful time of the year for them. So a lot of this can be a stressful time. There's the financial pressure of buying presents for everyone. And there's all the family gatherings, maybe work gatherings. Those can sometimes be stressful. And if we're alone, the lack of family can amplify those feelings of aloneness. So there's lots of things that can go on to cause us stress on the holidays. So I thought we could use this time this week to prepare for that, to talk about some tips and strategies for bringing more love into the holidays. So let's start by talking about family gatherings. So sometimes these can be fun on the holidays. Sometimes, depending on your family, they can be stressful, not so fun. And so one thing to keep in mind, so let's talk about how to bring more love to family gatherings. More love for ourselves and more love for our family. Just try to bring more love into the whole gatherings as a whole. So one thing we can do is before we go to the family gatherings, that's a great time right before to meditate, center ourselves, maybe do some of the heart-centered meditation practices that we've practiced, or the I love you practice, so that we can fill ourselves up on love before we head into this gathering. That just makes sure that makes sure that we're feeling full of love and that we have more love to share with the people there. And then while we're at the gatherings, if these family gatherings are stressful for us, it's a good time to practice mindfulness and be aware of our bodies, be aware of how we're reacting to the environment. Particularly, we can pay attention to our breath, noticing when we get stressed out, our breath tends to come more shallowly, more rapidly, and noticing if we're tensing up anywhere in our body, holding tension, maybe in our shoulders or in our neck, in our stomach. We all have our different trigger area or different flash points, different pressure points. So as we're in these environments, a way to stay grounded, stay present, just to be aware of our bodies, be aware of our breath. Notice if we're holding pain, if we're contracting, if we're causing pain in our bodies. And then if we find ourselves in a situation where we're having a challenging interaction with someone else, so say some family members or friends or coworkers or anything, if we find ourselves on the receiving end of a challenging interaction, that's when things can get difficult, right? And so one thing to be aware of, well, first, before we start, I want to say that we never have any obligation to subject ourselves to abuse, whether that's physical or verbal or mental or emotional abuse. So anytime we're in a situation where we're being abused, there are absolutely no obligations that require us to sit through that. So whatever we may feel like we have obligations to stay through something, but whenever we're being abused, whenever we're being hurt, we never have to stay through that. So I just want to put that out there. Anytime we're being abused, we have every right to take care of ourselves and exit from the situation. But if it's not that severe, if we're just having a more challenging or triggering interaction, and even if someone is acting in ways that doesn't make us feel good, one thing that can help is to continue to have compassion for the other person, so that we don't get triggered ourselves and respond with similar behavior. So if someone's starting to say things or act in ways that makes us feel uncomfortable, whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously, whether they're being passive aggressive or starting to lash out or starting to be triggered, it can help to remember that any behaviors that other people are acting out, any negative behaviors that they're acting out, those are reflections of behaviors that they received or suffered through from other people that are unresolved within them. So this can help us have compassion for other people, remembering that anytime someone's lashing out at us, anytime someone's being passive aggressive or saying unkind things, that's a reflection of things other people said to them at some point. That's a reflection of the pain that they've endured in their life and haven't been able to process and integrate themselves. So that's one thing that can help us just keep compassion in mind, hold compassion in our hearts for other people who aren't treating us in kind ways. And so sometimes we're going to get triggered and we're going to lash out again, and or get triggered and respond in negative ways. And sometimes that'll happen, and that's okay. But if we want to try to break that cycle of pain, that cycle of hate, instead of perpetuating it, like I said, it helps to hold compassion in our heart for the other person, hold love in our heart for the other person. And then we can also look for ways to bring love to that interaction. So any wound that someone's acting out on us, at the root of that wound is a lack of love somewhere in their life. Somewhere in their life, they didn't get the love they needed that's causing them to act in this way now. And so by bringing some love to the interaction, that can be a way to break that cycle of pain, break that ongoing, repetitive, recurring cycle of pain and hate. And an easy way to do that is just look for ways to give compliments to people. I mean, it can be even simple things like compliments about their appearance. So especially for holidays, people might bring out some nice clothes, some might dress up with clothes or jewelry. And most people, or lots of people, we have something, some kind of clothing or maybe some kind of jewelry that's special to us that we might bring out at a special occasion like holidays. And so it's always a good practice to pay attention to the people that we're interacting with. Notice them, take in all of them, look at all of their appearance, look at their clothes, their shirt, their pants, their socks, their shoes, and see if there's anything that jumps out at you, something that just catches your attention, and then give a compliment about that. This is one of my favorite ways to interact with most people. Just look for something, because oftentimes the thing that catches our attention, or sometimes the thing that catches our attention is something that they put a lot of attention into while selecting that to put on, and maybe something that has a lot of meaning to them. And so it's sometimes really nice to give a compliment to something someone's wearing, and it's something that has a lot of meaning for them. And their eyes will light up, and they'll feel that transmission of love. That's a great way to just bring love into an interaction through a seemingly mundane action, such as giving a compliment. And sometimes I try to do this when I'm in if I'm in a conversation that's negative. Sometimes I'll just do this and try to do this, and even if it doesn't fit into the conversation, if I don't know what to say and I don't want to continue the negative stream of the conversation, sometimes I'll just totally change the subject by giving this compliment. And so it's just a nice way to try to bring more love into any interaction we're having, any challenging interaction. And again, if we fail, if we forget, we get triggered, if we lash out again, we're doing the best that we can, right? Oh, that's another thing to remember about these other people that we're having challenging interactions. If someone's lashing out at us, they're doing the best that they can, given their upbringing, the messages they received from their family, the wounds they suffered growing up. And so that's another thing to keep in mind to help keep compassion for people, is that they're doing the best that they can. And any pain they're inflicting on us, any unpleasantness they're bringing to a conversation, that's a reflection of pain and unpleasantness that was foisted upon them at some point. And so when we can help to turn around the interaction by injecting some love with some compliments. Okay, but so say we've tried all of that, but it's just getting it's getting worse, it's getting bad, we're getting really uncomfortable. And if we're starting to feel really bad in an interaction, in any interaction, we can always remove ourselves from it. And we can just say simply that I'm not feeling well, and get up, maybe just go to the bathroom, take a little break for a little while, splash some water in our face, or if it's really bad, even leave the gathering if it's necessary. And we're not lying in that case. We're saying we're not feeling well, and we're, at the same time we're honoring ourselves, we're taking care of ourselves, we're protecting ourselves, and we're doing so in a way that doesn't directly confront the other person. So sometimes there is a time and a place to directly confront another person, but oftentimes that direct confrontational approach just continues the cycle of hate and cycle of pain and cycle of conflict. And sometimes the best option is to take a non-confrontational approach to remove ourselves from the situation. And just saying something like that that I'm not feeling well, and using that as an excuse to leave is a great way to non-confrontationally leave an environment that's making us not feel good. And maybe, I mean, we can say if people want more information, we can just be honest. Like, am I getting a headache? Am I getting a stomach ache? Am my shoulders hurting or something? I mean, however the unwell feeling is manifesting, we can express that we're feeling not good without blaming it on another person, right? Because whenever we start to blame someone else, that's when that cycle of violence or that cycle of hate, cycle of pain just continues. Whenever even if we, with good intentions, we're trying to stand up for ourselves and we're trying to create healthy boundaries. If we do that, if we blame another person in the process, that creates more problems in the long run. So, and again, sometimes there is a time to directly confront someone, but sometimes this non-confrontational approach can be an easier and healthier and more loving way to address a difficult situation that we find ourselves in.